Have you ever felt a sudden pull, like something was trying to stop you? Picture this. You're standing at the edge of the sea. The morning is quiet. The world feels heavy. And something inside you whispers, "Don't go in. It's not loud. It's not even clear. But it's there and it won't let go." What if the last thing you felt wasn't fear, but a message? Today's story is real. It happened on the lonely coast of northern Spain just after dawn. A woman grieving two losses, one visible, one still. Oncoming. Her name was Clara, and the voice inside her, gentle but firm, may have saved her life. She didn't know it then. But this was one of those angel signs before tragedy. A quiet warning, a mysterious presence, a silent intervention that came just before the tide changed everything. Some call it intuition, others call it divine protection. But what matters is that she listened. In the next few moments, you'll walk with Clara. You'll hear what she heard, feel what she felt, and perhaps you'll begin to remember your own moment when something unseen kept you safe. Before the worst happens, sometimes the universe sends a sign. If you believe in guardian angels, fate, or simply want to hear real stories of life-changing moments, subscribe to Saved by a Sign and stay with us for today's powerful story. She had always felt safe in the water. As a child, Clara used to believe the ocean could hear her thoughts. Her father would take her down to the shore on days when life felt too heavy, when school had been cruel, or when her mother's silence echoed too loudly. He'd hold her hand and say, "The sea doesn't judge, the sea forgives." Back then, the waves felt warm, like an embrace that reached beyond the skin. She remembered the salt in the air, the way the foam wrapped around her ankles like it knew she needed comforting. It became her place, her escape. But now, something had changed. The sea no longer felt like home. It felt distant, unfamiliar, like a friend who had turned away without warning. It had only been 16 days since her father passed, and the grief settled over her like fog, thick, shapeless, impossible to escape. Her husband had left the week before that. She hadn't told many people. What would she even say? That life had cracked in two and she didn't know where the pieces went? She was staying alone in her family's cottage near the cliffs of Asturias, a quiet place with stone walls that once smelled like fresh bread and coffee, but now held only the scent of damp wood and something forgotten. Most nights Clara couldn't sleep, and when she did, she woke up breathless. The dreams came first. Strange, silent dreams. She was underwater, always underwater, surrounded by ringing like church bells echoing beneath the surface. Faces floated past her, blurred and pale, their mouths moving, but their voices trapped in silence. Some nights she saw her father, but even he wouldn't speak. He would only lift his hand and point. At what? She couldn't tell. She never remembered the dream completely, only fragments, a sense of weight, a sorrow too old to be hers, and that ringing, always the ringing. Then, one night it happened. She woke up crying, not like before. This was different. Her hands were shaking, her body was cold, but her heart was racing like it had been called. She didn't remember the dream, but she remembered a voice. It had whispered her name. Clara, just once. Soft, close, too close, as if someone had leaned over her bed and spoken it into her ear. She was alone, the kind of alone you can feel in your bones. But the voice had been real. She was sure of it, not imagined, not part of a dream. She turned on every light in the house, checked every door, stared at her reflection in the hallway mirror as if trying to recognize herself. She wanted to call someone, anyone, but who would understand? By morning, the fear had dulled, but not vanished. It lingered in the way she moved, in the way her Eyes darted toward the ocean through the window. The waves that once comforted her now carried a weight she couldn't name. She wrapped herself in her father's old sweater and walked to the shore. The sky was grey, not stormy, just muted, as if the world was holding its breath. A few gulls circled above, their cries distant and hollow. The tide was low, and the beach was empty. Clara walked barefoot, feeling the cold sand between her toes, letting the wind sting her skin. It was the only thing that made her feel alive. She stood there for a long time, staring at the water. It should have welcomed her, invited her in, but it didn't. Instead, the sea was still. Too still, not peaceful, frozen. And the wind changed. Just enough to carry something familiar to her nose. Lavender, her father's cologne. It hit her all at once, a scent that had no place being there. Not on a beach, not in winter, not in the wind. She gasped and turned. No one. But inside her, something stirred. A thought that didn't come from her. Don't go in. She heard it again, not in her ears but in her chest. Clear, absolute. Don't go in. She stepped back. Her throat tightened, her hands tingled, and for the first time since her world had fallen apart, Clara felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Fear, not of the ocean, not of dying, but fear that she was being watched, protected. She looked up at the sky, pale and silent. Her lips moved, but no words came. A single tear rolled down her cheek, carried not by sadness, but by something else. She didn't know what would have happened if she had entered the water that day. She never found out. But something had stopped her. A scent, a voice, a sign. Even now, when she tells the story, her voice lowers. She says she can't explain it, and she no longer tries. She just knows that something, someone, didn't let her go in. And maybe that's the real miracle. Not that she was saved, but that she listened. Because sometimes the most powerful angel signs before. Tragedy don't arrive with thunder or lightning. Sometimes they come in a whisper, just before the tide turns. It happened just before dawn, in the quiet hour when even the shadows seemed to sleep. Clara had drifted off after a restless night, the kind of sleep that doesn't begin gently. It takes you all at once. But this time, the dream was different. Sharper, clearer, as if it wasn't just a dream at all. She found herself beneath the ocean, not drowning, not afraid, but floating in a vast, silent world. The water was dark but alive, filled with tiny lights that moved like fireflies. They surrounded her gently, glowing in soft gold and blue, flickering in rhythms that almost felt like breath. Everything was slow, still, sacred. And then she saw it. A figure was walking across the surface of the water above her, calmly and without effort, as if the ocean itself had become solid beneath its feet. The figure was tall, dressed in white, almost glowing from within. It had no face, no voice, but it radiated something Clara had no words for. Peace, not the kind you read about, the kind that knows you, the kind that makes you feel like nothing could ever harm you again. The figure stopped. It turned toward her. Slowly, it raised its arm and extended a hand. In its palm was a watch, old-fashioned, gold-rimmed, familiar somehow, but the hands on the watch had stopped, all of them, frozen. Time itself had halted, and Clara felt it, not fear, but weight, meaning. She reached out toward the figure, desperate to understand, to ask. But just as her fingers brushed the edge of the light, she woke up. Cold sweat clung to her skin. Her hands were shaking again, her heart pounding. The sun had not yet risen. The room was dim, bathed in the blue-gray stillness of early morning, but the dream, that dream, was still alive in her. It hadn't felt symbolic or surreal. It had felt true. She wrapped herself in a blanket and sat on the edge of the bed, trying to breathe. Why a watch? Why the silence? Why now? She didn't know, but one thing was certain. It was not just a dream. She felt it deep in her chest, a pressure, a pull, a knowing. That image of the frozen watch would not leave her. It stayed behind her eyes, ticking without ticking. She could almost hear it, the absence of sound becoming its own kind of warning. Clara remembered something her father once said years ago after she woke from a nightmare as a child. Some dreams come from fear, others come from beyond. You'll know the difference. She knew. This had come from beyond. The rest of the day, Clara moved as if underwater, slow, watching everything, listening. Her senses were sharper, as if waiting for something to appear. She didn't tell anyone about the dream. How could she? How do you describe a silence that speaks and still? She felt it. Something was approaching. She didn't know what or when, but the clock in her spirit had stopped ticking too, just like in the dream. Was it a warning? A message from someone she'd lost? An angel passing through her sleep? She didn't know. But she didn't ignore it, because sometimes the most powerful angel signs before tragedy don't scream. They show you a stillness. They let you feel time, just before it runs out. That morning the sky was impossibly clear, a pale, endless blue, with not a single cloud to soften it. The air carried no warning, no chill. It was the kind of day that pretends to be kind, the kind of day that dares you to forget your fear. Clara stood barefoot on the shore, staring out at the ocean. Her breath was slow but heavy. There was something in her chest she couldn't name. Not exactly sadness, not exactly courage. It felt like surrender, not to the sea, but to the unknown. She had told herself this would be the last time, the last walk down this beach, the last moment with the version of herself who had once believed in beginnings. She whispered a quiet goodbye to her father, to the girl she used to be, to the life that had slipped through her hands without asking permission, and then, without thinking, she stepped into the water. It was strangely warm, calm, too calm. Each step deeper felt like walking into a memory, soft, familiar, but somehow distant, like a dream you only half remember. The waves didn't push her back. They welcomed her in. By the time the water reached her knees, the wind had completely stopped. Even the gulls were silent. She kept walking, waist deep, then chest deep. And that's when it hit her. Not the cold, not the current, but a shiver, a sudden invisible ripple deep in her spine, as if something had passed through her, not around her, through her. She froze. A sentence echoed in her mind, uninvited, unexplainable, as if carried by something older than thought. Sometimes, what feels like peace is just the silence before the fall. She didn't know where it came from. It wasn't her father's voice. It wasn't hers. But it sounded like truth. Her breath caught. For a moment, the world felt thin, like she had stepped between two layers of something, reality and something else, something watching. She closed her eyes and listened. The sea moved softly around her shoulders, but inside, everything was still. The dream returned. The faceless figure, the frozen clock, the voice that had once whispered her name. And now, this sentence, what feels like peace, is only the silence before the fall. She could have turned back. She should have. But she didn't. She took another step and another. There was no panic, no storm, just the growing sense that time had paused, and the ocean, the very place that once held her pain, was now holding its breath. She felt something then, not a wave, not a sound, but a presence. Behind her, above, within, she didn't know, but it was real as the salt on her lips, as real as the memory of her father's hand in hers. Something wasn't right. The peace wasn't peace. And suddenly, she wasn't sure if the ocean had welcomed her, or lured her. She looked up at the cloudless sky, so still, so blue, so empty. But her soul was trembling. That voice, that sentence, echoed once more inside her. This is not where you're meant to stay. And for the first time, Clara listened not with her ears, but with her spirit. She turned, slowly, and began to walk back, against the pull, against the stillness, against whatever it was that had called her deeper. Each step felt heavier than the last. But behind her, the water remained calm, as if it had been waiting, watching, and now retreating. She didn't look back, because deep down Clara understood something sacred. Not every danger roars, not every warning screams. Some angel signs before tragedy arrive in silence, disguised as peace. And the greatest act of faith is choosing to walk away. She had nearly made it back. The shore was just ahead, close enough to see the dark rocks lining the coast, to smell the faint trace of pine trees drifting down from the cliffs. The sweater she had tied around her waist was soaked and heavy. Her breathing was uneven but steady, her skin warmed by the sun. She was almost safe. But then the temperature changed. It was sudden, sharp, a chill that sliced through the surface like a blade, just a few meters from land. The water turned cold, not cool, not fresh, cold. Clara paused. She was floating now, her arms stretched gently at her sides, eyes closed, body weightless. For a moment she wasn't thinking of grief, or fear, or even the dream. She just breathed, a long, deep breath, trying to feel something. Her father, God, a sign, anything, something to anchor her in the silence. Then, without warning, no ripple, no roar, something pulled her down. A current, swift and invisible, seized her legs and yanked her beneath the surface. There was no time to scream, no time to understand. 1 second she was floating in stillness. The next, she was falling through the sea. Her body twisted. Her feet searched for the ocean floor but found only emptiness. Her arms clawed at the water. Her lungs begged for air. But every breath filled her mouth with salt. Panic didn't come in waves. It came all at once, like a wall crashing into her chest. She kicked wildly, trying to rise, but the force was stronger than her. It wasn't a wave. It wasn't the tide. It was as if the sea itself had opened up beneath her, a hollow space, a mouth pulling her in. No noise, no struggle heard, no one on the shore to see. Just Clara slipping beneath the surface, alone. Her mind raced, searching for logic, for rescue, for mercy, but all she found was silence. And something colder than the water. A memory, the dream, the figure, the watch. Time stopped, and now time was stopping. Her body tired, her lungs burned. She had never imagined this, not like this. This wasn't how she thought the end would feel. And yet, in the thick of terror, something broke through, a single, clear thought. Not yet. She didn't know where it came from. It wasn't hers. It wasn't a voice she recognized. But it wasn't fear. It was command. A pulse of strength surged through her. She kicked again, harder. Her arms cut through the water like wings. Her head broke the surface for just a second, a gasp, half choked, half desperate, and then she was under again. But something was different. The current had let go. No longer pulling, no longer gripping. She floated upward, lungs burning, eyes wide, hands reaching for light. And just as her vision began to fade, her fingers touched air. She broke the surface with a cry that no one heard. But she was alive. She was alive. Coughing, gasping, eyes flooding with salt water and tears, she turned toward the shore, closer than she remembered, closer than it should have been. She swam with what little strength she had left, and as she reached the shallows, her knees hit the sand, trembling, weak, and she collapsed forward, letting the waves lap at her. Back. There was no one waiting, no applause, no rescue, only the wind returning at last, and the sound of the sea, softer now, almost apologetic. She lay there, face down, shaking, crying, not just from fear, but from understanding. She had been let go, not saved by chance, released by something that had seen enough, that had whispered, "Not yet," into the storm. And as she opened her eyes and looked up at the sky, the blue above her felt warmer, fuller, as if something had watched her from its depths, something that had held her and then handed her back. Because sometimes the signs we pray for don't come before the fall. They come inside it, in the hollow, in the silence, in the moment when everything disappears and we're given back. Everything went black, not the kind of black you see when you close your eyes. This was deeper, a darkness without edges, without air, a silence that swallowed all sound, except one, her heartbeat, slow, fragile, echoing like footsteps in an empty cathedral. Then, not even that, only silence remained. But it wasn't empty, it was full, impossibly full. Like standing in a space where the universe holds its breath, where time doesn't move and everything that matters is laid bare, without noise, without form. Clara didn't feel her body. There was no cold, no pain, no water pressing against her skin. She didn't feel like she was floating. She simply was, suspended, as if placed between two worlds. No fear, no questions, only stillness. And in that stillness, something arrived. It didn't walk, it didn't speak. It revealed itself like a melody, ancient and wordless, unfolding from inside her, not outside. It wasn't a human voice. It wasn't even a voice at all. It was music without sound, a vibration that spoke not to her ears, but to her soul. It carried a meaning that didn't need translation, a truth that felt older than memory, older than the sea. Not yet. That was the message, not in words, but in certainty. Not yet. It is not your time. Clara didn't ask who or what was speaking. She didn't wonder if it was real, because in that moment, that non-moment, she knew. She was not alone. She was being held, not in arms, but in intention, not in light, but in presence. Something had caught her, not physically, not forcefully, but gently, with purpose. She felt herself begin to rise, not upward, not downward, just away from the silence. And as the darkness thinned, as her senses returned one by one, breath, weight, the faint sting of salt, the message echoed once more, not louder, not clearer, just deeper. Not yet. When Clara finally opened her eyes, the sky above her looked different, not brighter, not clearer, just closer, as if heaven had leaned down, just for a second, and whispered her back into the world. Clara's eyes opened beneath the water. There was no light, only shadows and the heavy stillness of the deep. She couldn't tell how long she had been there. Seconds? A lifetime. But her body no longer thrashed. Her breath had faded, and yet something inside her moved. Not panic, not pain, just a quiet pull. Look up. She didn't know where the thought came from, but she obeyed. Her gaze turned toward the surface, slow and uncertain. And then she saw it. A figure, faint, blurred by the rippling water. It stood above her, walking across the surface of the ocean, not sinking, not struggling, as if the waves were solid ground beneath its feet. The same figure from her dream. Dressed in white, still faceless, but radiant in its stillness. Clara couldn't breathe, yet she felt no fear, just awe, pure, overwhelming awe. The kind that makes your heart remember something your mind never knew. The figure paused, and then it raised its arm, not toward her, not in warning, but in a slow, graceful gesture, as if parting something invisible. And in that instant, everything changed. The cold that had gripped her chest dissolved. A warmth, soft, golden, alive, wrapped around her like a current, not violent, not rushing, but powerful. The ocean shifted. She felt it, as if the sea itself had turned, tilting gently, carrying her upward in a cradle of warmth. Clara didn't swim. She didn't push. She was lifted. The figure above remained still, hand raised, unmoving, and then the light returned. Soft at first, then brighter, until her face broke the surface, air, sky, color, all flooding back at once. She gasped, cried, choked on the wind, but she was alive. Not because she fought, not because she escaped, because something or someone returned her, as if the ocean, after holding her so close to the edge, had been told to let her go. She turned her head toward the waves, searching for the figure. Nothing. The water was empty, but her heart still carried the image, the white garment, the gesture, the moment the sea obeyed. And though Clara never spoke of it to anyone, not fully, she kept that vision sealed inside her, not as a memory, but as a sign. Because sometimes the things that save us don't shout our names. They walk quietly across the waves and make the water give us back. She broke the surface with a gasp that tore through her like fire. Salt filled her eyes, her mouth, her lungs. The sunlight above was blinding, too bright, too pure, after the darkness she had come from. Her arms moved without thought, weak and trembling, guiding her toward the shore with the last threads of strength she had left. Each breath felt like burning, each blink a struggle between pain and disbelief. There was no sound but the crashing of the waves and the thunder of her own pulse. She reached the shallows and collapsed onto the wet sand, her fingers digging into it like it might slip away. She couldn't speak, she couldn't stand. All she could do was breathe, air, cold, heavy, real. But it was more than oxygen. It carried something else, a memory, a presence, as if the wind itself remembered what had just happened beneath the surface, and wasn't ready to let her forget. Clara lifted her head and looked around. The beach was empty, no footprints, no witnesses, no voice calling out to her. But she knew she wasn't alone. Tears blurred her vision, not from pain, not even from fear, but from something she couldn't name. Something bigger, heavier, holier. She had been taken, held, returned. Her body shook, not from cold, but from understanding, because the ocean doesn't return what it chooses to keep. And Clara had been let go. Not by chance, not by luck, but by something or someone who had seen her, who had called her back. She pressed her palm into the sand, grounding herself, whispering through broken breaths, words she didn't fully understand. "Thank you." It wasn't a prayer. It wasn't even a thought. It was truth. There was no logic to what had just happened, no scientific thread to follow, no rational story to tell. But in her soul, something clicked into place. This was not survival. This was mercy. This was design. She had not escaped. She had been spared. And from that moment on, Clara no longer questioned whether angel signs before tragedy were real, because she had seen one. It walked above the water, and it gave her back to the air, the kind of air that remembers who you are, even when you've forgotten yourself. The house was quiet when she returned. Still damp from the ocean, Clara moved slowly through the old front door, each step echoing against the tile like a question she no longer needed to answer. The light outside had softened, golden now, almost sacred, as if the sun itself had waited for her to come back. She dropped her bag near the doorway, walked past the kitchen where her father used to hum while brewing coffee, and sat down in the old armchair by the window. It was his chair, the place where they had talked about everything and nothing, where he once told her that not all signs are loud, and that the ones that matter the most are often missed. She folded her knees up, close, wrapped herself in a blanket that still held a faint scent of salt and pine, and let the silence settle. But then she saw it. Right there, in the center of the living room floor, a feather, small, white, perfect. It hadn't been there when she left, and nothing in the room had moved. The windows were closed, the air still, no birds had passed, no breeze had stirred, and yet there it was, alone, untouched, as if placed. Her breath caught, not in fear, in recognition. That quiet tug-in, the chest, that stillness filled with meaning. Clara didn't speak. She didn't need to. She walked slowly toward it, knelt down and picked it up as gently as if it were made of glass. The feather was warm in her hand, weightless, and yet it carried something immeasurable. She closed her eyes, and something opened. Not her mind, not her memory, her soul. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't bracing for the next wave of pain. She wasn't asking why. She was just breathing, fully, deeply, from somewhere beyond the lungs, a place only peace can reach. And in that breath, Clara felt it, the presence that had walked above the waves, the voice that had said, "Not yet," the hand that had lifted her through the dark. All of it, here, in the silence, in the golden light, in a single white feather on the floor. She held it to her heart, and without words, she understood. Sometimes, the final sign isn't what pulls you back from the edge. It's what reminds you, you were never alone. Clara never tried to explain what happened that day. Not anymore. There was a time when she searched for words, for logic, for proof, for something she could point to and say, "This is why I'm still here." But eventually, the need to explain faded. What stayed was something deeper. She keeps the white feather inside a small wooden box. Next to it, her father's old pocket watch, the one she dreamed about beneath the waves, its hands forever frozen in time. She doesn't open the box often, only when the silence grows too heavy, only when the questions return, and when they do, she holds the feather in her hand, closes her eyes, and remembers. Not the fear, not the ocean, but the moment that doesn't belong to this world, the one suspended between breath and stillness, between falling and being caught, the moment when everything stopped and something unseen stepped in. There was no thunder, no spotlight, no voice shouting her name, just a whisper, a hand above the waves, a dream that told the truth, and a force that chose to let her go. Not away, but back. Clara doesn't call it a miracle. She doesn't need the word. What she felt was real. Not loud, not grand, but unmistakable. And maybe that's how most angel signs appear. Not in the fire, but in the stillness before it. Not in the miracle itself, but in the moment when something changes, without a reason. Now, when someone asks her if she believes in signs, in miracles, in guardian angels, she just smiles and says, softly, "There are things the soul remembers, even when the body forgets, because deep down she knows. There are hands we never see, voices we never hear with our ears, warnings we only recognize in hindsight. And sometimes they come not to explain, but to awaken. To remind us that we're not alone, that we are seen, that we are loved, even when we don't understand why. Maybe you felt it too. Maybe there was a day when something stopped you, just before everything changed. A strange dream. A hesitation you couldn't explain. A quiet voice saying, "Wait, have you ever experienced a sign like this? Do you think it was coincidence or something divine? What would you have done if this had happened to you? Do you believe angels are trying to guide us, even when we don't notice? We don't tell these stories to give answers. We tell them to create space, for reflection, for faith, for that sacred pause between what we know and what we feel. Because somewhere between fear and peace, Between falling and being lifted is the place where these signs live, and sometimes they arrive just in time. If this story touched your heart, don't let these signs go unnoticed. Subscribe to Saved by a Sign and stay with us to hear more real stories of faith, mystery, and the moments when life whispers just in time. Thank you for staying until the end. But remember, there are stories that aren't just meant to be heard. They're meant to be felt. We'll see you in the next one. If you're still listening,